costume.
Hi.
Thank you for all the wonderful feedback on our interview with Fortnite Fabrics. We plan on doing interviews every other month, and we're already planning and have figured out who we want our next guest to be, whether or not they know it or not.
It's a whole other thing.
But we know who we're going to have,
Yes.
whether we like it or not.
They can't say no.
Exactly. So stay tuned for more information on that coming soon.
Yes.
Since our last video, we've passed the 1,500 subscriber mark. Holy y'all.
That is insane.
I'm verklempt.
I don't remember how long it took either one of us to ever hit that amount.
No, it was ages before.
Yeah.
And I think you actually beat me, even though I started first. I think you actually beat me.
I might have. I don't remember now. But, oh my God. That's a lot.
So thank you, everyone, for your support. We really do appreciate it. You make it worth our time doing this. We enjoy doing it, but it helps know that people do enjoy it. And
absolutely.
We're really, truly touched. All joking and such aside. So as you probably noticed, I'm not doing anything makeup-wise today. In fact, I'm pulling almost a full Norma Desmond. My shelves are starting to look a little bare. It's because we're moving. Yay, which is exciting. But subsequently, there's a good chance that there will not be a second video this month.
Right.
This all sort of popped up kind of quickly. And it didn't give us a lot of time to try and prepare. No. So subsequently, we may not have a second video this month.
Right.
And if so, that is why. But we will be back with a two-parter interview next month.
Like always, because
we've done it only once. So I can say like always, and I'm not actually wrong.
No, that's true.
So that's kind of where we are with that. So we'll be back, and then November we should be back to doing our normal 2 a month.
That's the plan. And you know, we just wanted you guys to know that now, because we made the promise early on that we would try to do 2 a month, but this is one of those circumstances where life priority has gotten in the way. Yes. And moving is going to be exciting. I want to see your new stitchy spot whenever you get it up and running, Garrett.
Yes, so do I.
Do you have that planned out yet?
No clue. And it's a good thing. We're definitely moving to a nice place. We'll be there theoretically at least 2 years because we signed a 2-year lease. So
it's a house.
It's a house, not an apartment. So our puppy bears will have a yard, and we're super excited. This also means, depending on when Katy gets this up, if you haven't seen my next video, it's because there isn't one, because I just couldn't pull one out. And there definitely will not be one the first Sunday in October. I can already guarantee you right now there will not be, and there may not be one the week before. There may not be one on the 20th.
So you're lucky you're seeing him here.
Yeah. So this will be the last time y'all see me until October. But I don't know. I'm going to at least try to do tomorrow, the 20th. Right. If this comes out after the 20th, well then.
I'm planning on having it come out tomorrow. That's
right.
The plan. Because I'm going to go watch the Stars game after this. So, hashtag priorities, man. Yeah. So I've got a dog. That's why my arm's over here moving, because she's right by my leg. And the time that we are recording this, it is bunny time. It's a dog. You've seen. Oh, stop. It is bunny time. It is the time when the rabbits come out. Yeah, I heard you growl. Yeah. It's the time when the rabbits like to come out. Yeah, you want to say hi? Come here. Come say hi. So I'm trying to keep her occupied, but you can hear how well that's going right now.
Actually, we can't.
Oh, well, I can.
You never work with dogs. They always prove you wrong.
I know, right? So if we start getting random barking, I apologize in advance. It is the bunny hour. So, you just got to deal with things as they come up. Anyway, this week we wanted to talk about a topic that we have seen come up in Maynia. We've been emailed about it. We've had comments about it. We've seen it on Instagram. We've kind of seen it everywhere. And that's WIP shaming, or as we're going to call it, there ain't no shame in your WIP game.
Nope.
Not in the slightest. WIP shaming. Now, Garrett and I have a lot more WIPs than Garrett does. I did a couple of years of the Year of Starts in the past, back when I was younger and had more energy. So I was younger. So I have well over 500 pieces started. I don't consider them UFOs because I still intend to work on them, do them. I have not given up on them. Garrett, how many WIPs do you have right now?
Conservatively,
yeah,
probably about 45 things started.
Wow.
There are some that are definitely UFOs.
Sure.
But yeah, I'd say conservatively, I've got about 45 things started.
Wow, I didn't realize you had that many.
Yeah, and then I've got about 10 that I rotate through on a regular basis.
Gotcha. That's probably why I didn't realize it, because I know you kind of stick to a rotation.
But then sometimes new starts happen, or
exactly.
I decide I don't really like you right now. I want to play with something else.
But that actually is why we wanted to talk about WIP shaming. There is no wrong number of WIPs in this hobby except for 0. Because if you have 0 WIPs...
0 WIPs is bad.
0 WIPs is the only wrong thing to have to be an active cross-stitcher. Whether you are a single project stitcher or you have 500 WIPs that you can go pull out of a drawer on the top of a hat, there's no wrong way to do this hobby.
Mm-mm.
And we have seen posts of people worrying about their WIP count for all sorts of reasons. They come up a lot right before people start either prepping for Maynia each year or right after Maynia each year, when people suddenly have a whole lot more WIPs than they are used to. For some people, a lot of WIPs cause a lot of stress and anxiety. For some people, they start worrying that they are not going to be able to finish the number of WIPs that they have in their lifetime. Some people start feeling FOMO, fear of missing out, for those who didn't know what that meant, and start thinking they need to have more WIPs than they actually are comfortable with. There's all sorts of reasons why WIP shaming comes up, but the big thing about all of that they all have in common is that WIP shaming is wrong. It is not a good thing for people to make others feel like they either have too many WIPs or not enough WIPs, or that they're doing something wrong because of the amount of WIPs that they may personally have going on at any one time.
And I know that personally, I tend to go through spells where I'm like, start all the things. And then I go, holy crap, I have way too many WIPs and this is overwhelming and I don't know what to do.
You started all the things.
Yes, I started all the things and I do this myself. And that's okay too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have learned that for me, doing 15 starts in Maynia is too many.
And that's fine.
You know, and there are years that I don't participate in Maynia, but then I'll go through a spell where it's like, oh, I start like 4 things in a month because I just start things. And that's okay too. It's all about what makes what's enjoyable to you.
Yes.
That's the biggest part, is
absolutely
why do it if you don't enjoy it, and what works best for you and what makes you feel happy at the moment. Exactly. Sometimes for me, it's I want to start like 13 things.
Yeah.
Sometimes for me, it's I only want to stitch on one thing. Like currently right now, I'm being monogamous with my Murder, She Wrote one because it's stamped and I don't have to think about it and I'm moving.
Yeah. And not thinking about it's fun.
After it's all done, then I'll be back to doing a whole lot of other things.
Exactly. And we just, because we see these posts all the time and we see the responses to them where we can tell that people are starting to feel judged or they're starting to feel shame for how they do this hobby. And that's the problem. The problem is not the number of WIPs. The problem is the way people are made to feel because of their number of WIPs. Mm-hmm. Like Garrett said, ultimately the whole point of this hobby is to have fun with it. Yes, you may end up with a beautiful piece to hang on your wall or make a pillow or make an ornament or however you may finish a project. Yes, you may end up with a whole bunch that are started and never finished. But you can't go through life worrying necessarily about what everyone else thinks about what you do with your hobby.
Mm-hmm.
We can walk out the door tomorrow and get hit by a car, and that's it.
Please don't do that.
I'm not going to. I don't go out of the house. Pandemic, I don't leave the house. But the point is that if you are living worrying about what's going to happen at the end, no one knows when the end is coming. You can't live your life worrying about what's going to happen when you're no longer here to have a say in it.
Mm-hmm.
I understand, and Garrett, I think, also understands that sometimes, like we said, it can get overwhelming. And if you are overwhelmed with the amount of stash that you have, the amount of WIPs that you're in, then you need to do something about it. But that is a personal decision. That is not a decision that should be made for you. That is not a decision that you should feel that you are being pushed into by someone else in this community. That is wrong.
Yes. And I think it's important to also know, if one of your concerns is what happens if I, am struck by lightning tomorrow, and that's my husband knows very well, get in contact with Katy, or get in contact with the Stitch Niche, and they'll help you with that part of it. So it's good, so it's good to have a plan for that.
Sure.
And the other thing to remember is people like to tell other people what to do, especially on the internet.
Yes.
And it can be very tempting sometimes to get into that. And there are times where, like when Katy said, once upon a time when she was going to do the year starts, I was like, girl, you crazy.
And that's fine. I admit it.
And that's okay. We're not saying, amongst your friends,
sure,
you're safe to say those sorts of things because your friends know you. But be aware when you're in the book of face or on the tube of you, that can come off very upsettingly so.
Yes.
And if there are people that, hey, they can only do one project at a time from start to finish. And in some ways, I kind of envy those people because I feel like they accomplish more than I do.
Sure.
But then there are others that don't, and that's all okay because that's what makes this hobby so unique. When there are a lot of hobbies where it's start to finish on one, start to finish the next one.
Sure.
But with this one, you can do all sorts of things, all sorts of rotations, or no rotations.
And
so,
the other thing to think about also is that I just lost my train of thought. That's lovely, Katy. And here's why we have notes for the meeting, is for when I lose my train of thought. There are two ways to approach, two general trains of thought when it comes to approaching a piece in this hobby. There are the progress stitchers, who like to focus and see a lot of progress while they are working on their projects. Those people tend to be more monogamous or have fewer WIPs because they like seeing substantial progress being made on their WIPs. That's great. The other category is the process stitcher, where they enjoy the process, whether it's they really enjoy doing starts, they really enjoy, just working on a project on its own when they feel like it. They're not so worried about the finished product and reaching that end point. Absolutely both completely valid ways to approach this hobby. Because
and there are also the hybriders like me. I do have a fair amount of WIPs, but I tend to give myself set goals for each month. So I get the progress, but I also get the process of enjoying it.
Yes. And I know there are quite a few people, and I am one of them. My favorite part of doing a project is one of two things. I love starting it, and I love putting in the last stitch. Everything else in the middle I do love, but those are not my favorite part. I mean, those are my two favorite things, is those first few stitches, putting together a project, picking out the fabric and the floss and putting all of that together, and then putting in that last stitch. Now, yeah, there's a lot of stitches that have to go in between to get to those two favorite points. I say this because I don't want people to think that I consider myself more of a process stitcher than a progress stitcher. I don't want people to think that if someone is more focused on the process, that if they don't care about finishes. I love finishes. Finishes are great. I have done my fair share of finishes. This year, I probably won't finish any. And that's fine because I've been in an epic slump. Thank you, 2020. But you need to do what is best for you. And when you know what is best for you, you need to be confident in yourself and in your decision that you don't care what other people say or that is what you should or shouldn't do. And at the same time, while we are here talking about not shaming people in general, we're making a very deliberate effort to talk about how there are two sides to the WIP battle. The monogamous stitchers, or basically monogamous stitchers, to the insane people like me. And I admit it, I'm insane. It's fine. I embrace the crazy. What you don't want to do is to go on the Book of Face, the Tube of You, the Gram of Insta, and start trying to promote your way of doing things as the best way and the way that everyone else should start thinking about things. Even if it is done in good faith, even if it is done in a heartfelt manner, even if it is not done with any intention to judge, it can cause problems. And so we all really need to be mindful that not everyone is going to approach this hobby the same way you are. And to embrace that fact. Do what you want to do. Let everyone else do what they want to do. That's great philosophy for life in general. How you choose to do this hobby does not have to be the way everyone else chooses to do this hobby. And if you start feeling like, you know what, I don't think I have enough WIPs, I want to start doing some more, great, share them, do it, start them, show them. If you start doing that, or you end up after Maynia freaking out that you have actually, oh my God, I started everything, there are groups out there that you can pass WIPs off to. There, you can give yourself permission to put those to the side as the, when I have finished these 4 projects, then I will pick up the next 4. There are ways to handle it. And we don't want anyone out there feeling like they need to keep up with the Joneses, or keep up with the Maniacs, or keep up with Coffee Stitcher and Stash Queen. It's not the point. Anything else you think on that, Garrett?
No, I think that's kind of it. You know, it's about the community.
Yes.
Be kind and love each other.
Yes.
Respect that there are differences.
Yes.
And, you know, if you want a lot of WIPs, have a lot of WIPs. If you don't want a lot of WIPs, don't have a lot of WIPs.
It's pretty simple.
It really kind of is. And I know in some ways we are sort of distilling this down into a potential oversimplification. But at the end of the day, it really kind of is that simple. You know, don't feel embarrassed if you don't have that many. Don't feel embarrassed if you do have that many. It's all about what you find the most enjoyable. And if there's nothing else you take away from our videos that we've done, because I feel like that's one of our overall themes, is do what makes you happy.
Yes.
Stitch what you want to stitch. Give yourself permission to, if you don't feel like working on something and you aren't enjoying it, don't work on it. Put it away. And sometimes you'll see something and go, you know what, I started this because, oh my gosh, I had so much FOMO, fear of missing out, about starting this Sal, and I just absolutely had to do it. But you know what? I really hate this. This is awful. I don't want to keep doing this.
Right.
Don't. Either adopt it out to someone who wants it. If you're not all that far, you can always frog it out and reuse the resources. You know, or put it away, and in 7 years, if your tastes change, pull it back out and work on it again.
That's what usually happens with me, is my taste will end up changing, which is why some WIPs come out sooner than other WIPs.
Well, and I mean, a good case in point was my Leslie Tier Wizard of Oz piece, you know, full coverage. And I got to where I didn't really particularly care for full coverage. So it went in a drawer. And then 6 years later, I pulled it out again and was done in 4 months.
Yeah. Because different place in your stitchy life at that point. But Garrett makes a very valid point. The whole point of are giving advice, and that's really what we're doing in a lot of these videos, is just giving our advice and our perspective and our feedback, is that sometimes, as simplistic as we may be making some of this, sometimes hearing it simply from someone else helps you give yourself permission to do something. Yeah. And ultimately what we want everyone in this community to do is to embrace their love of cross stitch in the way that makes them happiest.
Exactly.
And to give and to learn, because this is a skill that some people, I had to learn it. I am fully embracing it now. Some people have to learn how to give themselves permission to not do something that they don't want to do anymore, or to do something they really want to do. Life is way too short, people.
It is. And it was something that I actually decided to take forward from our last one-on-one video and give myself the permission. And it definitely is very helpful and nice.
It can be very freeing once you take it's scary sometimes if you've always been a monogamous stitcher, for example, and you want to start having more WIPs, not that you're pressured into it, not that you're FOMO'd into it, but if you feel like, you know what, I'd like to start taking, because let me back up. This is my personal journey with stitching. I was a monogamous stitcher for years and years, because I've been stitching over 20 years now, because I was a teenager when
alive.
You are not 20, dude. No.
To be as young as I want to be.
That's more likely. I started stitching when I was a teenager, and I was a monogamous stitcher partially because I was a teenager and there wasn't those sorts of resources that we have now, all pre-internet time, craziness, all that sort of thing. I stitched, and I may show them. Say what now?
The dinosaurs ruled the earth.
Exactly. Cave people drawing on the walls, stick figures for my cross stitches, the old days.
Oh yeah, the ye olde days.
Ye olde days.
The olde days of stitching of cross.
And I'll show these at Christmas time, but I cross-stitched stockings for me and my husband, and then one for my daughter when she was born, and one for my son when he was born. Probably my most proudest projects that I have ever made are 4 Christmas stockings. I was a monogamous stitcher. I wanted to stick the stockings done by each of my children's first Christmases. And I killed myself practically getting David's stocking done within 2 weeks of Christmas. And then my mom made it into an FFO so we could hang that. I didn't stitch for years after that because I completely burned out. And when I finally started getting back into it is because I had more than one piece that had struck my interest. And I finally decided, you know what? I got so burned out doing the one, I'm going to start both of these. It just started with 2. And then I went back and forth as I wanted to. And I realized, you know what? I like having multiple projects on the go. So I added more and I added more. And then I went crazy and joined Maynia. And and the numbers just kind of blew up from there.
The rest, as they say, is
history. But it makes me happy. I like going up into my stitching cabinet and pulling it. What do I feel like doing? Oh my God, I forgot I even started this. I'm going to pull this out and work on it. I like doing that. That's me.
Yeah. And that to a large degree is me. I've tried several times doing different rotations. And I do think that we're probably about to have yet another rotational change.
Of course we are.
Over. Because I think in some ways I just like making up new rotations.
Your favorite part of the process is rotation determination.
Yeah, it's rotation organizing. Now, whether or not I actually do anything with it, that's its own thing.
Garrett's in a category all by himself. There's process, there's progress, and there's Garrett. I love you, Garrett.
It's kind of true.
It is.
That's fun. So, and when I started as well, my first piece was an Emerald City. I did it start to finish. And I think a lot of us, our first project, we are monogamous with because we're deciding we like this.
Yeah.
And then I did another one, and I went, oh, I kind of like this. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm going to do this one next. So I did my third one. And then I think it was after my fourth one that I went, oh, but I want to start this. Oh, and I want to start that too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's taking me too long to finish this one. I'm just going to go ahead and start it.
Yeah.
Oh, and now I'm going to start this one too. And then like a dragon hoarding my projects. Suddenly I'm working on 10 at a time.
Yeah.
I'm not with that. And one of the things I've specifically learned is that no matter how much I want to do it, if I have one project going from a designer already, I cannot add a second one, because then they're too similar and I get bored with both of them and nothing happens.
And that's just learning who you are as a stitcher. That's all part of the process.
Oh, it's all part of it.
Yeah.
So, you know, and like I said, it's about making you happy.
Yes.
So, like Katy said, there is no shame in your WIP game.
No. Ain't no shame.
Ain't no shame. So don't be afraid. If you have a lot of WIPs, great, fabulous, that's wonderful.
Go for it.
Great, fabulous, that's wonderful. That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
And you know, there are stitchers that's how they are, and that's completely fine. And I'll tell my friends, you know what, I can't do that, but I am sure glad you can.
Yeah. And that's really the best way to address. Yeah. You can certainly acknowledge what you yourself are or are not capable of doing. That's fine.
While celebrating and supporting those who can.
Absolutely. I get, you know, the last time I did something monogamous was my Hoovian Time Traveler. I've hardly stitched since. Kind of a lesson I'm learning, that going that hard, as much as I was enjoying it.
I can do about one a year, unless it's like a real small piece that I'm going to finish in 2 sittings. But if it's a big piece, I can usually once a year sit down and do one big piece from start to finish.
Yeah.
I did it last year with it. It was pretty much a start to finish.
Yeah.
When I did that Mirabilia, that's the sandcastle and the 2 kids.
Yes.
What's that one called?
I don't know.
It's something.
That Mirabilia with the sandcastle and 2 kids. That's its new name.
Oceanside Kingdom?
Ocean Tides? I don't know.
I think it's Seaside Kingdom. Either way, that one I did start to finish.
Yeah.
It does, and I'm doing it right now with my Murder, She Wrote. That one's probably going to be as well. But that's, you know, that is okay. You know, and you'll go, you know, everyone kind of has their own little faces and things.
Well, and that's the other thing was just thinking as we're having this discussion back and forth, is that everyone can go through phases too. And that is also okay. If you have always been a monogamous stitcher, you suddenly want to do a whole bunch of WIPs, and then you go back to being a monogamous stitcher, that's fine.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Encourage, if you're generally one or the other, I encourage you every once in a while, shake it up, try the other side, see what happens.
Which is a way, granted, Maynia is a few months off yet. I wish it would be here, because that would mean we're well into 2021 at this point. But that is what, you know, where Maynia has evolved into doing something that's outside your comfort zone. That's, you know, there are several people who are multiple WIP people who do monogamania, because that is not what they normally do. That is not their normal comfort zone. And
it's an excellent challenge.
Absolutely. And it is not an easy challenge. It's not any easier than doing, you know, multiple WIPs. So, and a whole bunch of people go from being a 1 or 2 WIP person to trying the Maynia challenge. Some people find that they love it and are from there on 1,000 WIP people. And I'm only being somewhat sarcastic with that number, because there are people out there with that many WIPs, which is awesome.
Cough, Kate, cough.
Queen of Starts for a reason. And then there are people who are like, I can't. No, not doing this one. And that's okay too. We just want you guys happy.
Exactly.
I mean, that's really, for all that we do, we want you all happy. And we want you to share what you're doing, whether it's one thing that you're posting every day or you're posting something else every day. We want to see it. So our take on it is 0 is the only wrong number of WIPs to be an active stitcher, and share what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Yep.
Anyway, so if you guys have any questions or concerns or thoughts about WIP shaming, put them in the comments below. Share your own thoughts on this on the whole phenomenon, and let's all try to do our own part to eliminate WIP shaming from the community, because there is enough problems in this world.
There are enough things to shame people over it.
True, legit shame. The amount of WIPs that someone may or may not have is so far away from that.
Down the list.
It's not even on the list of things that people should be shamed about. Yeah. So just be mindful of how you're addressing the topic. Be mindful of your thoughts or of how you express your thoughts and comments about the topic when you see it pop up, and just do your best to support however people doing this hobby. That's all it ultimately comes down to. Speaking of shame.
Speaking of shame, we're going to put a little disclaimer here.
Yeah.
We are about to do our current favorite hashtag on Instagram or Instagram handle. We're both going to be getting political with this one.
Very political with this one.
They're both things that hit very close to home for both of us. So if you don't like that, this would be the time for you to bounce on out and go on about your day. And I hope you have a lovely one.
And we'll
come
see you
back
next time.
And this next time.
Yeah.
But if you don't mind, or you're curious what we're going to say as I knock my phone over, which has my notes on it.
We're all sorts of messes.
There. Ooh. Then, yeah, please feel free to stick around or don't. It's up to you.
But you've now been warned.
There's not a surprise third option where like our heads explode or something.
God, I hope not.
That would be horrible.
I know.
It's not a turban I want to die in. It's not even a turban, it's a scarf.
Didn't he do great with making that scarf into a turban, everybody? He looks fantastic. I am envious.
Eventually, probably for our Halloween episode, we'll get some real sparkly fun going.
I'll at least find one of my tiaras.
No, I'm going all out.
I know you are. I know you are. I'm not surprised.
All right. So
allergies.
On that sort of general notice, as many of you have known, we've discussed, I fall into sort of the genderqueer, gender neutral sort of category of genders. And as many of you do know, I am a big Harry Potter fan. There we go. That's one for the blooper reel. Let's try that one again.
I don't know if I'm cutting that out either. Just warning you.
So, as many of you know, I am a big Harry Potter fan. You know, Hufflepuff for life.
Gryffindor.
And recently, J.K. Rowling has made very, very, very problematic comments about transgendered men and women, whether or not they classify as actual men or women. She's what's generally known as a TERF, which is a trans exclusionary radical feminist, which is of the opinion that if you don't bleed, you're not a woman, which is far from being true.
Right.
She's made several very inappropriate remarks about the trans community, and under her pen name, which may or may not, I don't know her well enough to know if she knew this in advance. Her pen name, Robert Galbraith, is actually the same name as the guy who created the whole conversion therapy, let's shock the gay out of people.
I didn't realize that.
Now, that may just be a horrible, horrible coincidence. Wow. And I really, my gut tells me it probably is, but I don't know for sure. And she's certainly not made any comments about it one way or the other.
No.
But under that other pen name, she's working on a new murder mystery in which the killer it's a serial killer, is a man who dresses like a woman to get their victims.
A cisgender man, by the way. It's not a transgender, it is a cisgender man.
A cisgender man. And that was kind of the final straw to break the camel's back, if you will. So the delightfully wonderful at Top Knot Stitcher charted out a pattern called Trans Wizards Welcome. It is a free pattern. It is available on her Instagram. And it's the Harry Potter lightning bolt in the trans flag colors. So pale blue, pale pink, white.
It's awesome. It looks fantastic.
It's fantastic. I also recommend looking into at the Gaily Prophet. They have a beautifully done post about how to cancel J.K. Rowling while keeping Harry Potter. It gives a good rundown of her transphobia and what the Harry Potter and ally community can do to support and combat that. The pattern, like I said, is free, but she is asking if you enjoy it to consider donating to the Trevor Project or another organization that benefits the LGBTQ plus community. One of my favorites is BCEFA, the Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, which takes care of not only actors in the Broadway community, but just about anyone in that industry.
Oh, wow.
The Trevor Project, though, specifically is one of the main national organizations that provides crisis intervention, suicide prevention to LGBTQ young people. Right. And you can find them at thetrevorproject.org, bcefa.org. There's a lot of them that are out there. So I strongly urge you, if you are interested at all, check that out. Definitely check out at the Gaily Prophet. For a really good, concise rundown of the timeline of events leading up to her becoming someone we don't really support anymore.
She's basically become Dolores Umbridge.
She has, which is terrifying.
It is.
And it's
sad.
Something when all of the major players in the films have all come out and said, no, this is not okay.
No.
And yet she still keeps going.
Yeah, so, I know both Garrett and I are huge Harry Potter fans, and I know I have struggled majorly with all of this because I still love the world that was created. I still love the actors who made this world come to life. It's been a struggle. It really has.
But one of the best ways to continue loving the world without lining her coffers, buy the books used. I will be keeping an eye for the Hufflepuff editions at used bookstores because I will not continue buying those as much as I do love them. But fan art, a lot of the cross-stitch patterns out there you can get that are Harry Potter, but she don't get no dime from it. So it's a great way to continue exploring and discovering your love. Fan fiction as well. In fact, there's some fan fiction out there that does a better job with the stories than she did.
And don't get made into Broadway shows that should never be part of the canon. But I digress. Sorry, just had to throw that out there.
I completely agree with you there.
Horrible.
And I will say I am a little sad that I won't ever be seeing it because I did really want to see those special effects because I've heard those are terrific. But you know what? There are other things that I can plunk my money on, like
absolutely
Jackman and the Music Man. Ain't gonna be nothing offensive on that stage.
So I think that's great. I'm going to download it, add it to my list of to-do projects. I think it's wonderful. So thank you, Top Knot Stitcher, for
Top Knot Stitcher.
It's a great pattern and highly recommend everyone go get it. All right. Here's my political bent. As the world learned yesterday, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg succumbed to her battle with pancreatic cancer and passed away. And like many people, this was devastating to me. On a personal level, this is the same cancer that took my grandmother earlier this year. So it was kind of triggering in that respect. But at the same time, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was only the second woman ever appointed to the Supreme Court. Her famous quote, "How many women is enough when there are 9?" I fully agree with that. She is an inspiration, an icon. Her loss, especially right now, is huge. It is absolutely devastating. So before I go into the handles that I'm going to talk about, something I'm going to make a point of: early voting has already started in parts of this country. Parts of this country can already send in their mail-in ballots. Early voting is going to be starting rather frequently all across this country over the next few weeks. We are less than 50 days away from the presidential election. And if you were on the fence before about the importance of getting out and voting, this is why it is important. It is not only important for the top of the ballot, it is important for the Senate races that are going on right now, when at less than 2 hours after her death was announced, Mitch McConnell is already promising a vote on the floor to replace her, less than 2 hours after she passed away. It's disgusting. Mm-hmm. It's hypocritical. It goes against the rule that he decided to create when Justice Scalia passed away in 2016, 9 months before the presidential election, and said that a vacancy should not be filled before the people have their say. He's disgusting. He's up for re-election. If you're in Kentucky, go vote for Amy McGrath.
Or really vote for almost anyone.
Well, in Kentucky, it's Amy McGrath is the Democrat. John Cornyn in Texas is up. Susan Collins in Maine is up. There is a Senate race in Arizona. There is a Senate race in Colorado. There are Senate races where there are vulnerable Republicans who need to be voted out of office. Lindsey Graham in Georgia, who said, yeah, get out and vote for her. I mean, she held on as long as she could because she did not want this president to replace her. And I find it reprehensible that her last dying wish and fervent hope was that her seat would not be filled before the election took place. Now, I will acknowledge that, as much as it pains me to say this, it is entirely possible that on November 3rd, this president gets reelected.
In which case, goodbye America, because that's where we're headed.
Yes. But at the same time, at that point, fine, go ahead and replace her. You're going to be there. Mm-hmm. But if you have ever questioned the importance of getting out and voting, this is the time. She was instrumental in women's rights. She was instrumental in LGBTQ rights. She is one of the votes that helped gay marriage pass. She is someone who helped women break barriers. She argued cases in front of the Supreme Court that helped women become closer to equal rights in this country, especially in the workplace and in schools and Title IX and all of that sort of thing. She's been instrumental in helping keep the Affordable Care Act, which is now up in front of the court again. Her loss is instrumental. And it is vital that everyone get out and vote as if your life, the life of someone that you love, and this democracy depends on it, because it does.
It does. And despite what you may feel about Joe Biden, because everyone has their own feelings and opinions there, you're not just voting for him. You're voting for all of the secretaries.
Yep.
You're voting for the Supreme Court at this point.
Yep.
You're voting for so much more than the office of the presidency.
Yes.
And the only way we're going to probably save this country is if we can get Joe Biden elected.
Absolutely.
Was he my choice? No.
He wasn't my first choice either.
But he's who we've got, and I would much rather have him than another 4 years of the Cheeto.
And as Kerry Washington said yesterday in a tweet in regards to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, her rest has been earned. It is our turn to fight, because she fought for us as long as she could. So we need to do what we can to honor her. Mm-hmm. In that vein, There have been in the past people who have, designers who have created patterns for Ruth Bader Ginsburg that are out there. I'm not going to talk about those individuals. Who I'm going to mention today are 3 that I know of that in the last 24 hours have released free patterns in honor of Justice Ginsburg and her passing. If you feel compelled to try to use, as we talked about stitch therapy in the past, processing difficult feelings during this time, I recommend that you take advantage of any of these free patterns and use money that you might have spent on buying a pattern to donate to a political campaign that you feel is important, that you, whether it is the president, whether it is a senator, whether it is your local dog catcher. Every position is important. Every position needs to be voted for, and every position has an impact on what this country is going to be like after November 3rd. So the 3 free patterns you can go and get. We'll include links to we'll include their handles, as we always do, at Subversive Cross Stitch, at Dirty Cuss Stitch, and at Stitch Life Mag. All have free patterns that you can go and download on their Instagrams. If you know of a pattern that's out there for free right now that I haven't included, let us know and I will include their information down below. We may not be able to say their names out here, but we'll include their information down below. I cannot stress enough how important this is. There's just no, the response that you have seen across the country is not an over-exaggeration on either side. You have people who are gleefully dancing on her grave before the body is even buried, and you have people like us who are gutted that she has been lost, because she is a towering icon. Her legacy will last long after all of us are gone for what she did. 2020, frankly, can go fuck itself. We have lost too much this year.
We have.
And so if you want, these 3 designers have graciously offered their talents to provide some free patterns, small pattern, medium pattern, large pattern, as ways to help get our combined grief out through stabbing a lot of fabric, because we all know that stabbing fabric can be great therapeutic relief. So that is who I am promoting this week. Like we said, we got political and we're not going to apologize for it. But I will also add this now, even though we did not say this before we started talking about our political stances here. We have never made it a secret where we stand politically. We will not tolerate, whether in Maynia or on this channel or on our Instagrams, anywhere, we will not tolerate bullshit responses. We have absolutely no qualms with booting and banning. You don't like it? Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. And I'm not apologizing for it.
Nope.
This is one of those times where we can't worry about necessarily pleasing everybody, because we get that there are people out there who are watching us who may not agree with us. And that's your right to have that opinion. But we are not going to apologize for ours, nor are we going to provide a platform for people to spread hate or anger or, like I said, any other bullshit in regards to where we are standing. So that's your warning now. We see it, it's gone. So don't even bother trying, because it's not going to get under our skin. It's just going to get you banned. Anyway, On that lovely upper of a note. Sorry to be a little bit down there, people, but you know, sometimes you gotta put it out there the way the truth is out there. And right now, like I said, 2020 can go fuck itself.
Yep.
As we said at the beginning, Garrett's moving. I don't know if we're going to have another video. If we do, great. If we don't,
we will try, but we aren't going to make any promises.
No, it's all going to be up to what Garrett has on his plate, frankly, because moves, as we all know, can be incredibly stressful.
And I'm doing the bulk of this one. Yeah. So.
And didn't you say you already had like 29 boxes of books already? And your bookshelf behind you is not even done?
Well, unfortunately, on the bookshelf behind me,
I see books.
Yeah, there's 4 there, and then 7 is 11, and then 13 would be 24, 25, 26, 27. And there's still 28 books on this one shelf.
You have a lot of books. Just a few.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
So,
and that's having my tchotchkes.
So we will try to get back with you guys before this month ends. If not, we will see you once Garrett is nice and settled in a new home with a new video spot and a new stitchy spot.
Maybe, and we'll see how it's arranged.
I know. I said maybe we can get a little tour of your stitchy spot on our next video. You know, that would be cool. We'll see. Teaser, possibly. As always, we appreciate you guys for watching. We appreciate all of your support. Leave us comments below on your thoughts about this or any other stitchy topic. And
we love getting emails about ideas that you want to see, people that you want to see, that you don't want to see.
We'll include all of our contact information below, as we always do. Come and join us in Maynia. We would love to see you guys there. Otherwise, make sure you vote, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right.
Bye.